Honestly, I was shocked when adding this up. $53,000 on courses, coaches, and consultants. I could have literally bought a brand new Tesla with this and then watched it caught on fire. We've all heard that cliche, right? Invest in yourself. Well, after doing exactly that, I quickly realized something. Some of these programs were absolute garbage, embarrassingly bad, but some completely transformed my e-commerce business. So right now, I'm going to reveal to you my mistakes, what went well, and most importantly, the things you can learn and take away that without spending anywhere near $53,000. And if you stick around to the end, I'll reveal something that most of these coaches, consultants, and especially the course sellers do not tell you. Okay, firstly, what are the different types of unconventional education that I've invested in over the years? So firstly, we've got courses, which are usually some videos, some sort of community. It seems to be everyone's jumping on the school bandwagon these days. Coaching, which is like one-to-one, one-to-many. We've got consultancies, usually, pay to play, sites like Clarify, do this. Then we've got like events, which are in-person presentations, small masterminds, people trying to sell you shit. These days, it's usually a mixture of all of these. So I've bought all of these, invested in all of these, whatever you want to call it. And so let's look at some of my mistakes. Mistake number one is the first Amazon FBA course I ever bought, it came through a Meta ad. Generally, there was a complete lack of effort in this program. The audio was awful. They promised to give feedback on ideas. It took days, weeks to reply. There's no follow-up to see how I was getting on. I had no friends in the space at the time, so I kind of felt quite isolated because I just felt like they didn't care. I know, sob story, right? And from this, I kind of really developed the principle of be careful of meta ad courses. The reason being is that most programs sold through meta ads, especially right now, meta ads are really expensive. They're going to have to factor in the CPA, the cost per acquisition. And so it's generally going to be quite expensive to do so. They wouldn't have to also win you over in the same way that someone producing organic content on YouTube would with the value creation. So that being said, not all bad, but I'd be careful of that. That did get me invested. It did get me going on the Amazon side of things. So kind of worked out okay in the long run. So mistake number two was bad consultancy advice. I paid for a consultant that recommended this unnecessarily complex offshore tax structure. When speaking to someone else about this, he recommended something completely different. It was like, no, you don't need to do that. That's complete rubbish. And when I thought about, okay, why did he do this? It's because he had a financial interest in the companies, the other offshore companies that he was recommending set up, right? Surprise, surprise. It helped me develop the principle of, okay, always get free opinions on the same topic, especially when it comes to anything financial, accounting. It seems to be that speak to 10 different accountants, they all have like different opinions. So always get free opinions on the same topic, especially when it comes to consulting. Buying a program out of curiosity and not with a specific goal. So I bought another Amazon course 2 to 3 years in. Honestly, I almost learned nothing new. Not because it wasn't good. It's just because I had no goal in what I want to achieve from the program. I was just like curious as to what I'd get. It sounds really obvious, right? Like have a click on before buying the thing. Am I looking to get declarative knowledge? We don't know what we don't know, the what, or is that procedural knowledge, more the how-to, the frameworks that would come with a program? Or maybe I'm looking to solve like a niche bottleneck. Either way, with all of these things, you have a clear goal behind going into the program. And so then you know, okay, well, I was just buying that program for declarative knowledge. I didn't necessarily gain anything, but that's a good thing because I know pretty much heading in the right direction. Okay, number 4, speaking with the sales guy instead of the person who would be coaching me. So in most cases, there is an incentive with sales teams to prioritize money over value. They're all targeted with sales figures in mind, and they will rationalize. We're not rational beings, we're rationalizing beings, right? So they will rationalize in any way to get you to close. And this is generally the rule, not the exception. Most salespeople will be like this. And this is coming from someone who worked in sales as well for years and knows the setup of these teams and have experienced this myself. So I signed up for a coaching program where I spoke about my concerns to the guy about the time and energy. And he was like, okay, yeah, this program will be, you'll be doing like 3-4 hours a day, blah, blah, blah. And as you'll be an advanced business owner, you'll be hiring from the beginning. And then when I started, I invested in the program. One of the first videos was talking about how it's going to be a full day of work. And I was like, all right, okay. And then when I was talking about hiring, they're like, okay, it's going to be another 5K. Okay. And I didn't have any of these expectations when going in. They were not being 100% transparent about all of these additional costs, these upsells. Always just being ignorant and just didn't know. I like to think the latter. But if you speak to the person who's coaching you directly, so this is one thing I do most of the time, is I'll speak to the person directly, try and speak to the person who's coaching me directly, because they are more concerned about expectations a lot of the time. Because they need to fulfill on that, right? They need to fulfill on the things they're saying in the call, the promises they're making in the call. And so they'll just look a bit stupid if they cannot do that. Like, most humans want to avoid looking stupid. Principle number 5, which is like, speak to the coach to clarify concerns. If you are speaking to a sales guy, clearly state expectations from the program. Okay, this is what I'm looking to get. This is what my capacity is. Rather than just speaking to the sales guy and just taking it as a word for it, because probably is bullshitting you, right? Investing in something I really didn't want to do. I had this idea to start a service business, and I invested a lot of money in coaching programs in the beginning. Then one thing I realized is I didn't really want to do this. I didn't like the methodologies they were using. It was too labor intensive. It didn't suit my skill set. So it helped me develop principle number 6, which is do the thing first to see what it is before committing with your wallet. This is exactly what I did with Amazon in the beginning. I just did the thing myself, and then you can kind of see what it is rather than spending loads of money and then realizing, oh, I don't actually really want to do this thing. It's not being the best possible student, right? This is taken out of Alex Hormozi's textbook. An Amazon course I bought 2 to 3 years in, I did learn very, very little from. Why did I buy it? Because I was curious about scaling, systems you're using, etc. But I didn't go to the calls. I didn't turn up to every single call. I didn't look to turn up with a huge list of questions. I didn't look to squeeze out as much value as possible from the program. Even though most of the stuff in the program I kind of knew I was already doing, I just wasn't the best possible student, right? And this is one thing I've just done with so many programs, is I could always be a better student. I want to be on the board of, okay, let's have an interview with this guy and tell his transformation story, right? That is the goal. That should be the goal. I think that's a great frame from Hormozi on this, which is like being the best possible student they've ever had. Firstly, why buy these courses, right? Generally, it's for filtered knowledge. Filtered knowledge. Why should I listen to them, right? Why should we listen to them? Because results. If someone has got results in something, then generally success leaves clues. So it can probably help you towards the outcome you want if it's similar. But I think it's important to be careful of who to trust, because most people out there on YouTube, it seems, these days, it's based on research and AI chatbots rather than actual experience. So all the people I hired have evidence of where I want to be and helping others be where they want to be. I think both of those are key. And therefore, this increases the probability of the outcome I want and decreases the probability of running into the wrong direction, right? Because that's where a huge opportunity cost occurs, is when you go in a direction and spend months, weeks, maybe even years in the wrong direction, and then great, I've lost all that time, and then that's usually going to occur some financial costs as well. One question I think some people have is why don't you just look for filtered information on YouTube? You can learn a lot from YouTube. Like, I've learned tons from YouTube. I do that as well. I research on YouTube, I read books, I listen to audiobooks, I do it all. There's people out there who give very good filtered information for free, like Alex Hormozi, for example. But sometimes this information isn't specific enough to my situation. I want to see how they think about my situation, right? I want to see, okay, well, I am looking at launching this product on Amazon. What do you think? Do you think this has got a good chance of being successful? And then analyze what I am thinking versus how they are thinking. And this is so much more valuable than watching a few videos on YouTube on the thing and not being 100% sure if that person I should trust or not. Because generally when you start talking to people, you just get a vibe as to whether they're successful, and then, you know, they'll probably tell you their products, and this is just generally the way the things go. And so if I didn't do this, then I would usually incur a cost with my time, my energy, my money, right? And given that time and energy and money, in most cases, makes sense to invest in situations that have a huge financial upside, right? or a specific bottleneck that is occurring. So that's the good then, which is really the filtered knowledge. The second one is the accelerated learning curve. So there's two types of knowledge. Well, I think there's actually way more, but two for this situation, which is like declarative, the what, and the procedural, which is how, right? So declarative knowledge. Generally, this is going to be ignorance. And as Daniel Kahneman states in Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow, we have a bias over information we hold over information we do not hold, right? In other words, we don't know what we don't know, and what we don't know in business could kill us. One bad mistake, one bad decision could kill you in business. And so a lot of the time, seeking out things that we don't know, especially when it's filtered information, is like an insurance, especially when you're dealing with super high leverage opportunity like Amazon FBA, where you're investing tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars in products. The right words at the right time from the right person can change the direction of your life. Even some of these words, golden nuggets, filtered information, I got from a friend, right? One of the first courses I signed up with on Amazon FBA, they gave me a scaling strategy. So I was actually struggling to find additional products to the first product I did a few years ago. Then I bought this course and I clicked on the scaling strategy that they were using, and then 2-minute video, I think it was, and I was just like, why didn't I think of that? Like, that was really, really dumb. And then I just literally implemented this. So pretty much the scaling strategy was just me duplicating that product multiple times with multiple variations. This still works really, really well in e-commerce. And I just didn't think of it. And then as soon as I implemented that, I came up with multiple product ideas, and then I quickly got return on investment on the program. Another way of getting tons of declarative knowledge is just using the law of large numbers at events. This is one thing I love to do actually about going to events, is that if you go to events, especially the large scale ones, talk to a bunch of different people, see what everyone's talking about. Look at the topics of all of the presentations. What's everyone focused on? What are the masses focused on? What's working for most people? And either A, you can focus then on that and have that as a huge area to focus on. Like right now, it seems like a lot of people are doing well on TikTok. And so, okay, well, TikTok Shop's obviously working for a lot of people. Okay, well, what specifically is working? Right, so you're working out the declarative side of things, and then you're working out the procedural knowledge kind of things, which brings us on to procedural knowledge. So what is procedural knowledge? So procedural knowledge is the how-tos, right? It's more about acquiring the skill, the specific steps to take. The best way to gather procedural knowledge is having a feedback mechanism in place with a coach to make sure your technique is correct, which helps speed up deliberate practice, right? And mitigates the risk of learning bad habits. So how I like to do this, right? So generally, I like to do this with one-on-one coaches, which I prefer because you have more, it's more intense, it's more focused. And then if you're making mistakes, they can identify quicker, okay? Which then leads to a shorter learning curve. So some examples I've done with this have been in product development, where I've had people to look at products we've done and be like, okay, yeah, what do you think? Okay, how would you go about solving this problem and saving costs on this product? What materials would you be looking at using here? And then I just compare, okay, how am I thinking versus how they're thinking about this? I also done this with copywriting. I had a copywriting coach, and he was like, okay, where's your marketing brief? I was like, my what? And then he was like, okay, well, do that first and foremost. So the declarative knowledge, I didn't know what marketing brief really was back then. And then with my copywriting, he was then just giving me feedback on, okay, this is the structure, use this is what's working for us, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, I'll do that. By the way, ChatGPT is, or any AI app is great for this as well now. Yeah, there's other things like a personal trainer, like for example, like bench press, when I was like learning that in terms of just being like, okay, how about you just go a little bit slower and just put a little bit more in this direction. Or in Muay Thai, yeah, more recently started, and he's like, okay, yeah, kick's still not right, okay, you've got to twist a little bit more and like do it like that. And so you're getting these feedback mechanisms for when you're doing the thing correctly and seeing what good looks like, which is the declarative, but then also for the procedural in terms of just like helping with that. But generally with procedural knowledge from just doing it yourself and then getting tips and tricks from the person who's coaching you. And it generally works best, in my opinion, for one-to-one. But you can also, in e-commerce, gather all this stuff through frameworks. That's one of the things I love about investing in courses, is that you're taking and absorbing all of those systems that have worked. So when I first started e-commerce, I got all the way they manage their PPC from the program, how they optimize all their listings, how they create titles, all of this stuff. And I just taked it in and just plugged it into my business straight away. I did the same thing with the inventory management system, and it just speed things up a lot quicker. The third thing, the biggest thing, and probably the most important, the most valuable thing of investing in programs, courses, events, all of this sort of stuff, is community. So most of my friends from events, meetups, courses I've bought maybe with the people I've bought the courses from, or maybe people I've met in the program, mentors I've had, etc. People generally are quite like-minded, right? And you can absorb these behaviors from them. That can help increase the probability of success. Another benefit of this is contact, like through once you've got a network of people, then if you've got a specific problem or issue, you can speak to them about that or reach out to them and be like, okay, do you know anyone who can help with this? Or do you know anyone who can help with that? You know, there's designers, agencies, sourcing agents, and you can speak to multiple different people. So for example, I reached out to tons of different people when we were looking for a new graphic designer. I was like, who do you recommend? And then 2 people came back with, literally the same person. These people don't even know each other. And I was like, okay, either A, they're getting plugged in the background and getting commission, watch out for that one, or they're actually pretty good. And yeah, I started working with them, they read down our listings, and I'm pretty good. So another huge benefit is the emotional hurdle. So I think for myself anyway, I like to try and make decisions with 2 hats on, which is the rational hat, the logical decision, and then also the emotional decision. You've got to factor in both of these things when making decisions. Generally having a phone full of people who can help solve, most of the problems that you're probably going to have or you are having, and supporting it makes you feel you can achieve so much more. Honestly, part of the time, like, job can be really lonely. I'm just sitting here on my own, like, a lot of the time, and I feel like there's a huge reliance on me, to provide like a lot of knowledge, a lot of information to the rest of my team, and having loads of people who are way further ahead than me, achieving way more, to reach out to speak to, clarify ideas, blah, blah, and talk to them about business. It's a huge emotional support. Let's go into then who should and who shouldn't buy this stuff, because I think this is really, really important. A lot of this stuff is going to be contrary to popular opinion, especially if you're out there and you're selling courses to beginners. You're going to hate me. So who shouldn't buy this stuff? And I think broke, absolute beginners should not be buying programs. Let's go into these reasons why. And personally, I wouldn't buy programs if I had no money or very, very little money. So the first thing is resourcefulness. I think being able to go out there and get knowledge yourself is a really important skill to learn. Like being able to go through Facebook groups, being able to scan through YouTube, be able to read books on a topic, synthesize all of that data, and then convert it into like actionable steps and take action on your own. It's really, really important, because I've seen a lot of people invest in tons of programs and they keep thinking that knowledge is the thing they're missing, right? The procedural knowledge is the thing they're missing, but it generally isn't. It's probably just because they don't want it, but resourcefulness, super important skill. So number 2 is you need to learn to make decisions on your own. You don't want to rely on someone to make decisions for you. Otherwise, you're gonna always need someone there. And this is one thing training my team members and speaking with my team about. So I don't want them to constantly be asking me for approval on decisions or my opinion on things. It's because it's just training people to always rely on someone. I started this business on my own. I had to just learn how to open up a piece of paper or like my diary notes, just write out my decision on there, and then make the leap myself, make the decision myself. And I think that's a really important skill for anyone to learn, especially now with AI as well. Just you can chat with the AI and just get feedback on your own decision making and then make that decision on your own. I think that's really important. So number 3 is there's tons of value from YouTube, books, free meetups, especially now with AI as well. And in the beginning stages of anything, like right now with me in these YouTube videos, there's just so much I need to learn. I need to learn to speak to a camera. I need to learn how to script videos. I've tried like reading off my notes. It's more in the get going phase. The best way to create hooks, and there's so much stuff I need to learn that I am just going to learn a lot by just doing the thing. And so, yeah, in the beginning stage of anything, you can just learn by doing and then watching the free videos on YouTube, maybe reading, speaking with AI, these sort of things, you can learn quite a lot in. There's no point investing in a program at that stage. Number 4, you just don't know how committed you are yet, right? So do you like the thing? Are you intrinsically motivated to the thing? Will you continue? Don't want to make that mistake like I did with setting up that service business and then realizing paying all that money for the programs. I didn't want to do it in the end, right? Another reason is that keep money for the stuff that makes money. So these videos, I've invested in someone to do the thumbnails, help me with the thumbnails. I invested in an editor, right? So this is the stuff that is important. It helps save my time. And then I obviously have to be in these videos, recording these videos. And so it makes sense to do that. Like Jeff Bezos in the early days of Amazon, I think they're famous for like working on the doors, right? Number 6 is that this is one actually that most people place absolute no value on mistakes they don't make. So what do I mean by that? So once you've invested a ton of time and tons of energy into a thing, it deepens the pain, right? When you do not get results or great results from doing the thing. Like even though, like with these YouTube videos right now, I know I need to do hundreds to get good at this, and I'm not gonna get views from the beginning. It's still painful, to get like 20 views on a video or 50 views or 100 views on a video, right? You're gonna be in a huge amount of pain. And so then when you speak to someone and explain your problem, and then they give you examples of how they're gonna solve that problem, think about that problem, or help solve some of these problems that you're having for free, then you can see how valuable that advice is, and you can filter out all the pretenders and actually really get good value from this stuff. So for example, like a lot of these lessons in this video, I can just speak to you about all of this stuff, but most of the people will not value these mistakes in the same way I do, because I've just learned by investing a lot of money, time, and energy into these things, right? So there are exceptions to this with beginners. I think it's quite important actually to get external help. The first one is going to be, I would look at hiring a consultant right now, especially in e-commerce, to go over an idea that you have or the idea that you have before placing the order. The reason being, if you're spending a huge amount of money on a product, which you will with the stock, the graphic design, all of this stuff. I spoke to some people in the beginning stages and they were looking at doing a course, spending $40,000. The cost is relatively low to the amount you're investing. Right? It's more of an insurance. And so you don't want to make a silly mistake that I spoke to some people and they're about to pretty much launch a product that had no validation, right? And that's $40,000, that's probably going to be disastrous. And so the second exception, if you have a ton of money, you're super serious and you 100% know you want to do the thing and you're low on time, then the cost is relatively low towards the income value. Providing, right? Providing you're a good student. Right? The second type of person who I really recommend should not take any of these programs is people who don't take action with the knowledge, right? Don't want it. It's hard to get value from something you don't do. And the variable in success a lot of the time is quite often the student, not the teacher, contrary to popular belief. And I remember actually speaking with this as a program I invested in, the guy who sold the program, and he was saying that it's a bit like making a course, making a program, and selling it, especially to beginners, it's a bit like making a pizza, selling pizza in a restaurant, and you spend a lot of time, developing this recipe, and you bring out the pizza to the person, they look at it, and maybe eat one slice and then just walk out, right? He's talking about how this was very, very unfulfilling. And this is the thing that most coaches, consultants, event sellers, and especially the course sellers do not tell you, is that when most people pay, they still do not pay attention. I don't know. Why is that? I've invested in programs, I've invested a lot of money in things, and then just literally just hardly watched any of it or not turned up to the course, not maximized it, right? I just think it's generally down to just not wanting the thing. I think a lot of people glorify the idea in e-commerce anyway of starting the business, and business in general actually, that is. And I just don't think most people, talk about myself as well, intrinsically motivated or reinforced by the work itself. And so maybe it's that, or maybe it's just stress is too much, or the insecurities aren't big enough. I mean, who actually really knows? I can't speak for others, but personally, for me, money is always like a really, really poor motivator, unless, you literally have none, but probably around like third or fourth, like on the list. So I'd be thinking before investing is like, yeah, what do you actually really want? Yeah, are you actually curious about an e-commerce business? or you just do it purely for money. Because yeah, I think going into anything purely with a money goal, when the money doesn't come, it becomes extremely hard. Unless his insecurities are so big, unless desperately need that money for, I don't know, to help a sick family member, I don't know, whatever the motive is, that is deeply linked to your intrinsic motivation, maybe that'll work, I don't know. Who should invest in programs? I think this is the 3 reasons when I would invest in a program now, okay? And that would be just making money from the thing. So if you're making money from your e-commerce business, YouTube channel, 100% do it for declarative knowledge, procedural knowledge, or maybe specific bottlenecks having. So for example, scaling an e-commerce business with systems, tax advice, maybe you invest in a program for these specific things. If you're isolated, you're lonely, right? You have no friends in the space. I think by far the highest value I've got out of all these programs has been the friendship, getting feedback on ideas, talking about strategy, just the largest study ever conducted, the Harvard cohort study, just like the quality of your life is going to be massively determined by the quality of your relationships, right? So if all your friends are doing similar things to you, if all your friends are where you want to be, and you're just going to live a happier, more fulfilling life. If you're isolated and you literally have no one to speak to, just for the community, it's great for that. It really helped me with my journey. This video is getting way too long. If you made it to the end, well done. So overall, is this stuff a net negative or a net positive? So the only way to really tell would be quite literally like stealing some PIM particles and jumping into the multiverse and just literally relying on free YouTube videos, independent thought, books, etc., etc. I would have actually spent way more time getting to the outcomes. I know for sure. I would have less friends in the space. I know that's for sure. And at the end of the day, when I've looked back at my life, I've always regretted the things I haven't done or the problems I haven't tried to really solve with whatever means possible more than the things I have done. So even after spending all of this money, I don't regret it at all, because I'm just showing to myself, no matter what, I'm just trying to solve these problems no matter what. And I think if we go in with a whatever it takes attitude to solve problems, then the probability of success is just going to go up significantly.